Hey everybody, so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a quick walk around video to supplement the photos and a couple of the other videos in the gallery and give you a little bit of a better idea what the truck looks like than in just the photos. And so overall it is really very dry, nice body, original paint, other than and I'll show you probably maybe 10%. It's the driver front fender and the cowl was repainted by the previous owner. The driver's side fender was redone to according to him due to a dent just behind the rear, or I'm sorry, behind the front wheel. And so he repaired the dent and then repainted the fender. And then the cowl had a set of brackets mounted and screwed into it that I think were from an old cab over camper, sliding cab over camper, and it had some brackets drilled into the cowls just above the camper special emblems. And so he took those brackets off. He was the second owner that I bought it from. He took the brackets off, but then you had 4 holes in the sheet metal of the cowl on both sides, and so he filled those in, grinded that down, and then felt like the best thing to do was just to repaint the cowl. And he did get a pretty good job of getting a match in the paint to the original aqua reef color, but it is a little bit of a lighter tint, and you can see that in the photos both on the cowl and on the driver's side front fender. So anyways, I'll walk around it for you, try to give you a better view of it. So again, overall, really straight, rust-free 70 F-250 camper special package. And one of the other, I think, noteworthy options, you can see the list of them in the Marty report, but is that it did come from the factory with front disc brakes. First F-250, the generation that I've owned, has front disc brake, that's had front disc brakes, and boy, that really does make a difference. Obviously has that original paint, does have some fading, tiny bit of surface rust in a couple places. Here's where your holes were at here for those brackets. New tires, and I refurbished the wheels, polished out some hubcaps. It does have kind of an old school aluminum step on the passenger side here. I was told that there wasn't needed one on the driver's side. It was only for the wife that needed it to get in, and she never drove it apparently. I replaced the windshield gasket. The windshield gasket was real, may have even been the original one, though I don't think that the front glass is original to the truck. not a car light windshield. And but I think what they did is they actually replaced the window glass and reused the original seal. Either that or it was done like decades ago, which is, I guess, also possible. So he explained to me that the dent on the front fender was down up in this area here somewhere. But you actually really can't tell or feel on the inside as to exactly where it was at. But so that's the reason he repainted that front fender. And then again, these holes were in here on that cowl. The roof has been repainted too, and I don't see it on the Maury report that the truck left the factory as a two-tone truck. And if just the roof like this was white, probably then maybe Wimbledon white from the factory, then I don't think that would be the shade of it. And I also think it would say on the Maury report. I'm not 100% sure. But it has definitely, at the very least, been repainted, because the white is almost more kind of like a cream color white. And it does have a new gas cap, new seal here, new seal on the inside from the filter neck to the tank. It is a brand new gas tank and new sending unit. Gas gauge works great. So, and then the story that I got on the auxiliary tank, which it did leave the factory with, and is kind of a nice feature, but it's not being used at the time. And one thing is that this gas cap, being a locking gas cap, I never got a key for. The guy I bought the truck from said that he had lost it a long time ago. And so then, therefore, he didn't use that auxiliary gas tank anymore. And I would say at the very least, and he owned the truck for about, I think since about 2018. So about 4 to 5 years. And I wouldn't just, I haven't tried to flip the switch to see if it'll switch to the rear tank, but I really don't want any gas from that tank coming out until that tank's been able to be dropped and at the very least cleaned. And then I'm sure you could reconnect it, and may work. I'm not 100% sure. Can't make any guarantees on the status of that auxiliary tank, but it is there. It's got the metal cradle, so to speak, from the factory, and would be a nice feature if somebody wanted to tackle that project to give you the extra fuel range. The rear window, I had wanted to change out the gasket on as well. You can see it's starting to crack, or already has been cracking. There's a kind of a significant gap from a crack that actually split up in here, that I filled with some black gasket adhesive and a little bit of shoe goo, so that water can enter through that location at least. But as you can see, this rear windshield gasket, I guess it's not a windshield if it's in the rear. The rear slider window needs a new gasket. And this is a factory Ford slider window, and the gasket for that window is not made anymore. I'm hoping that somebody can prove me wrong, but from all my research, that one's no longer made. So you have basically two options. You can either pull this window out and get a fixed piece of glass to reinstall, and the gasket seals for those are readily available, or you can get a aftermarket slider window, which actually accepts the same exact gasket as the fixed glass one. They made the aftermarket slider windows specifically that way for that purpose. So the problem though is that the frame of the factory ones were thicker, and you cannot get that gasket on that window frame, the ones that are available for the fixed glass or the aftermarket windows. But I'm going to leave that to the new owner to decide what to do on that. Nice new dual exhaust. And I don't know if it shows up on the windows very well, but there is a kind of the only significant dent on the entire truck is right here. You can probably see. And I'd imagine it actually wouldn't be very hard to at least flatten that out a little bit more and make it better than what it is now. Kind of a nice cool rear bumper, set up for towing. Bed was obviously, the floor of the bed was obviously painted black by somebody at one point, kind of like a flat black. And you can see some surface rust around the edges on the inside of the bed, but there's no rust through holes in the bed anywhere. And it's fairly good shape overall. Got that ding. And I basically cut and buffed the original paint, well, the paint on the whole truck. But as you can see, you know, on the cowl and on this front fender, that paint that they used to repaint it is not very thick at all. And I burnt through in a couple little spots when trying to buff that out. Otherwise, the rest of the truck actually came out pretty glossy for it being the original paint. So we'll take a look at the inside too. Check out the inside. I'll give you a quick shot of how nicely these doors close and open. A shot of the bottom of these doors. So it's about, I'd say like 97.5% original in here. The easiest way to describe it is, I guess, that the entire interior is original with an exception of a portion of the upholstery on the seat. And I'll show you that this panel, if you will, here to here to here and back down, has been covered because it had wear with another pretty close matching piece of black vinyl. And then there's a super fancy patch with black duct tape right there. Rest of the seat is the original seat upholstery, and then the rest of the interior as well. Even though these are available, this plastic latch for the rear window, which was kind of a design flaw, is still in place. Those are actually available. And so then you have the original headliner, sun visors, original dash pad, which shows in the photos as well, has got that kind of a cracked out center section over the speaker grill, or as opposed to being a speaker grill. original AM radio that works.
I love you, I love you.
And then the heater blower, fan blower works, heat works, and super nice original. It's the nicest original rubber floor mat I've seen in this generation truck. There's barely even a flaw in this thing. There's a cut, like a little bit of a cut right here, and a little dimple right here. Other than that, this rubber floor mat is really nice. Original seat belts, headliner, like I said, dash, steering wheel, original door seals. I think they're in pretty good shape, but there's a couple of spots here. You know, this could look a lot nicer with a new one. You've got this switch for the fuel tanks here. And I actually don't know what the story is exactly, because there's also an under dash electric, because it's got wiring going to the back of it, switch there as well. So I'm not actually sure which was the true one that's hooked up to be used on the truck. It's got brake controller, which is actually, it does function. Actually, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it does actually move. That actually works. Lights all work. Wipers all work, including the squirter. Emergency light, which works. The lighter switch, or the lighter, actually works as well. First time I think I've come across that one on one of my trucks. You have your e-brake. I went through and repaired the e-brake system. That wasn't functioning when I got it. So yeah, the interior is pretty darn nice and original and in good shape. Check out that other side. And his doors are pretty nice. Again, that original seat, I forgot to show them from the other side, but there's your, there's the new tank. Yeah, in the back of that original upholstery, that seat isn't super pretty, but heck, you can't see it. Again, like I said, new sending unit. Truck came from the Seattle area. Been there its whole life. Yeah, I have to take a picture of these. I'll include these. Kind of a, you know, since the truck's a 1970 truck, you got to have a set of Ford factory shades. Your future is going to be bright in this truck, so you're going to need them. Again, pretty original and in good shape still. So it's got its original 360 in it. I don't actually know what the mileage on the truck or the setup is, if it's turned over or not. So I put in, there's new cables for the heater controls. They were sluggish and kind of rusted out, really wouldn't operate that well, so that the heater system and the defrost system and everything can work well now. New windshield washer tank with a new pump down there. These inner fender liners obviously have been painted. They're just normally galvanized steel finish. And I'm not sure at what point that was done. Truck does have the power assisted brakes, and the front discs, obviously, like I said, and power steering. So let me see if I can fire it up for you real quick. I did have a cold start video too. Fuel gauge works good. Off gauge, no issues. Temp hasn't really come up yet. Usually so what's norm for this truck is the temp gauge at operating temperature, the needle sitting right about at the E of temp, and oil pressure gauge functions good and sits right about normally where it's sitting right now. It sits usually right about on the I. A little bit lower right now at idle. So yeah, I mean, turn signals all work, both sides. The lever does self-cancel like it's supposed to. Horn works. And you can kind of see that brake controller moving around. Still hooked up. The only thing on the lights that does not work, and I might be able to try to get to that, is this, what I think is supposed to be lit up for when the e-brake is on, like the brake light, if you will. And I think also signal you when you have a issue with your braking system. But that does, I've never seen that lit up. And it might just be a bowl behind there. If I can pull that out, I might try to get to that, but no guarantees. Exterior wide, I think I had in the photos it's showing that all the lights are functioning. The lights, cargo or inside dome light rather, works. Obviously the door is opening, but also off your switch, you can turn it on and off from inside.